go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Get ourselves some subs. That's right, folks. It's at the movies with Lo and Mo.
Do that work on these
Before we go,
intros.
before we go any further, I just want to say if you do us a solid, like the content, if you could like this video and subscribe, hey, a share is free. It helps get word around. We love doing these shows, and so I hope that people have been enjoying them. I believe they have, and we're excited to keep doing them.
Yeah, me
So
too.
today we are discussing Martin Scorsese film Color of Money.
Blue.
Title green,
Blue.
sometimes brown, I guess silver. Maybe not a dumb title because the more I think about it, the more there's at least four colors of American money.
And then there's a lot of
Um,
other currencies that are multicolored.
it's
But
true.
that's not what we're here to
Why don't
talk
we
about.
why don't we get that?
I don't know, because we don't really get a lot of things that other countries get. So, I mean, maybe.
I like the monopoly money that you get when you go into Canada.
I just really like
Want some of
Canada.
that.
You know what we're not
Me
talking
too.
about? A movie
Maybe we'll
filmed in Canada today.
that's a good segue. This is true. So I guess a couple things I didn't know going into this. I don't know, so I'm gonna assume, Jimmy, that you A did not watch the trailer because we talked about this last time, and B, I'm going to assume that this was your first experience with the film.
Yep, and I'm going to assume the same for you.
Correct. The only thing that I kind of remember is like growing up, I think like my dad or like somebody in my family made like references to Tom Cruise doing like the samurai stuff
Yeah.
with the pool stick. So that's like as much as I know. What I didn't know is that this is technically a sequel
Oh,
to a
yes.
film in the '60s called The Hustler that also starred Paul Newman as the same character.
Hmm. To
Um,
Fast Eddie.
and I don't know how much. I can't imagine that not seeing that film affect your viewing of this. Like
Well, they didn't
I
really
can't
write it
imagine
as a
watching.
sequel, so I think it's fine.
Right,
It's
it's
more of
kind of
like
just
a
the same character revisited.
It's more of just playing to a specific audience that like, hey, you watch this, hey, welcome to another movie with Fast Eddie from Hustler. Oh, and an up and coming actor, Tom Cruise. And you put all these big names on
Yeah,
top of a billboard and you look at this movie when you go and rent it or buy it. Those names are the only thing you see. You see those names over the color of money, which leads me to my point. And I'm going to say it now. This movie was a money grab and an attention grab.
yeah. It has money in the title.
Hmm.
um, I It's not a bad theory. I think you and I have some similar gripes and also probably some things that we like about this movie.
Yeah.
So here's what I'll say. Let's get this out first. What I liked about it, I liked a lot of the camera stuff, a lot of the shots, a lot of the visuals.
Hmm.
Scorsese does get some great shots in there. Um, you get some really interesting like overlap shots with things like fading in and out of focus, and
Yeah.
um, there's one shot. Sorry, I got a cat here. There's one shot in particular where Paul Newman is getting his eyes checked. It's just this really like striking visual of him centered in the screen with the sheen like on his face. Um,
Yeah, the
so
part
I like
before that
that.
though was interesting. When he was at that pool, he dives into the pool and then jumps out of the pool, and the transition puts him right into that doctor's chair with the eye machine, which is neat. Yeah, I mean, technically, this movie was well done. There's a lot of good parts about this movie. I mean, I don't want to like just completely
Oh,
decimate it
for
at the
sure, and
beginning because I actually enjoyed it. But
that's a common theme with that we're seeing with Scorsese is like even in the films that we maybe don't love, it is impossible to deny that they've all been well directed.
mm,
Um, I would say my biggest gripe with this movie is that I don't particularly find any of the characters likable. I thought that I liked Paul Newman's character. And then, like as the movie goes on, you're like, oh, like he is kind of a piece of shit
You
because he's
start to
just
feel
using
bad
them and
for him though, up into a certain point, and then as it goes on with the character, when he's like his development with Vincent, and kind of you start to get this arc, this redemption arc.
I feel worse, I think I feel worse for Carmine than anyone else in this film because I feel like she does not get so like I one of my favorite scenes in the movie was when Paul Newman and Carmine are talking one on one in the car at the beginning about
Yeah.
Vincent
Hmm.
because gives you a lot of insight into their relationship and like how she views Vincent and his character. So Vincent is like a child. He's very childlike, and this is this is underlined by the fact that he works at a toy store called Child World, which is
Interesting pick for
bizarre
this
writing
movie. Yeah, as
choice.
soon as that comes up center, like we're like moving. We don't really know much about Vincent besides these earlier scenes. We see him as like a hothead, kind of like aloof character. Paul Newman describes him as a flake in like a bad sense of the word. Like he's just not there. He just doesn't have his priorities straight. He's more worried about a video game. And then you're like, man, this kid is just or this, not this kid, but this guy's acting like a kid. And then the next scene, boom, it just says Child World,
Right.
and he's a salesman for Child World selling things. And I was like,
It's
wow,
a
that was.
little it's a little like on the nose, but I don't hate
Mhm.
it. It was just kind of jarring, I think. He's very egotistical. Clearly like the tension between him and Eddie throughout the film, at least in the beginning, comes from the fact that Vincent is like unable to let his ego go enough to he's trying to learn how to dump a game. He's trying to learn how to play himself down so that he
Yep.
can get more and more money off of these people, but he can't resist showing off and doing this big theatrical thing.
Vincent is very insecure, is what I've gathered from this character. He puts on this performance as a confident guy, but deeply in himself, he's very insecure. We see this with his interactions with Carmen, as far as their like dating scene and stuff, where it's just constantly like he's always worried about where she is. When they first enter, I think it was the second dive bar, they were in that pool hall. There was a bunch of men staring at her, and he like basically pushed her out of the door, and they're like, "You have to go home now." And when he starts learning to dump these pool games, he can't get over anybody that's like shit talking him or anybody that thinks they're better. He has to win in his mind because he has something to prove.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm still kind of dissecting it because I simultaneously feel bad for each of the characters on some level,
Yeah.
but I also just don't like them very much. And I think I think this is another instance of Scorsese doing something intentional that succeeds, and
Mhm.
maybe it just doesn't like work for me
Yeah.
personally
I don't think we are supposed to
because
like them, to be honest with you.
right, when you look at it, Carmine, at least what I got from her conversation with Eddie, I think she uses Vincent. Like I think the reason she's with him is because he's the best. That's kind of it's almost like a social status thing. It's like that's why she uses. I think
Mhm.
that relationship is using, and then here comes Eddie and taking advantage of both of them.
Yeah.
So in a way, Tom Cruise's character Vincent is he somehow manages to be the least likable character, but also the one you should feel sorry for the most because he's just getting used left and right. And he
It,
does realize at the end of the film, he goes off about used me, you
mhm.
know?
We see him
Uh
really get used in that opening scene when we first really see, like, when they first get to that pool hall and he's playing that first game, and Fast Eddie's like, you have to dump it, you have to lose. Or no, Vincent wanted to lose because he felt bad for the guy that he was playing with. He had some disability, so he felt bad taking his money. And Fast Eddie's like, "You have to take his money. This is like the first thing." And Vincent's like, "No, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna throw it. I'm gonna let him have it." They both leave. Carmen and Fast Eddie leave. Fast Eddie goes upstairs to watch everything happen. So to prove a point to Vincent, Fast Eddie leaves at the exact time that the money is to be paid, and the whole bar just attacks Vincent. And
like
he's just like
this dude
watching him through like the cracks, getting
yeah,
beat up, and that's when you get like the first taste of like, okay, we understand Eddie's motives.
great to have. I'm curious about your thoughts on this. Um because to me, this felt the plot felt formulaic in the sense that it's like this is almost like a buddy movie or a road trip movie in a way. It's kind of this thing where it's like there's tension, the tension bubbles over and then it's resolved and then they immediately go from like there's like a montage in the middle of the movie where it's like
Yeah.
suddenly everything is fixed and suddenly it's like oh like they're a team now there it's and I think it's like kind of I want to say it's lazy filmmaking and I also don't want to say it's a rip off of anything because this film is
Yeah.
older than probably a lot of the movies that I'm thinking of. I do think it's a thing that people use that I get kind of like tired of is like you feels like by the numbers almost, you
So,
know?
I
It's
g
very predictable,
yeah.
I think.
I guess my take on that is I agree with you. So instead of being like one main conflict or like one huge goal, there's a bunch of mini conflicts that are separated between really technical pool shots. And then if it's not a shot of like these pool balls hitting at different angles and the sound, it immediately transitions to what Mo's saying here is a montage moment, which relies heavily on like sound and music. Like the music choice for this film and some of these scenes, like when Warren Zevon's like Werewolves of London was playing and Eddie's like tension in the car, then it would transition over and the same song was playing in the bar where Vincent's like doing the samurai stuff with the sword or with his pool stick, and he's just going and beating somebody that he absolutely shouldn't. That Eddie said don't even play him.
Technically interesting. Like I like that. I don't not like that. I think it just maybe does some disservice to the plot at times. My other big question, and maybe you can answer this for me because this is an actual like thing I don't understand that I'm just wondering if I like wasn't didn't click with me or if
Yeah.
question is Eddie is an expert bull shark. Like he is an expert at hustling. And he seems to know he's dealing with Amos. There's a scene where after he splits up or it's actually he's still on the road with Carmine and Vincent, but there's a scene where he goes out to play some pool. Forrest Whitaker, whose character's name is Amos,
Hmm?
and he finds out that Amos is to me, he knows that Amos is a hustler. Asks him 3 times. He's an expert at hustling. So he has to know. Then he lets himself get hustled so many times that at the end of the scene is like a broken man. And my question is like he clearly to me I think his character clearly knew that he was being hustled. So why did he continue to
I
was
think
it a sense of pride? What was it, you
so. I
know?
so I think I can answer it. So earlier in the scene when we start to learn about Eddie, he talks about when we first find out that he's an ex pool. And the way that I take it, he was like an ex pool pro, like on the tournament circuit. So he was definitely a shark and like making money, but he was more invested in like the actual like tournament style of pool. He talks that he was like that he got his. So I assume that he got hustled like to a point where it was like really bad for him. So I think that's when we first learned one of his negative traits is that he takes his hustling or sharking way too far to a point where it like affects him in a bad way. So we go through this, and I think to know his redemption arc, like at that point, he has to be at his lowest. He has to be at his absolute bottom before he can go on to get back into pool. Because this was the first time that we see Eddie play pool. And I think through this whole thing, Eddie was trying to keep Vincent from being like him and getting into those situations. So I don't know if either it was for the redemption arc or that was still a ploy to show Vincent what could happen if you go too far with somebody and you're not paying attention. Because he keeps saying this, he keeps saying this was your final lesson. So yes, he was broken, but I think it was also a lesson to Vincent too. Like, hey, this is what happens when you think that you're cocky, when you think you're on top of the world. Somebody is right around the corner to knock you down.
And I yeah, and I think like I definitely like the idea that Dee's character is closer to Vincent's character than he'd like to imagine.
Mhm.
Like, that somewhere deep down, or that even when he was starting out, that he was had a lot of the same traits that maybe Vincent had. You know, I'll tell you right now, the thing that worked the most for this movie for me, the thing that I liked the best about it, that I didn't see coming. So spoilers, you should watch the movie before you watch these, unless you don't care. Uh, I loved, did not see coming, the fact that so they get matched up. Eddie and Vincent get matched up at the end of the film. They're in Atlantic City, and he wins. And as he's celebrating with his girlfriend in their hotel room, Vincent stops by, Carmine, and drops off an envelope with $8,000. And Eddie's like, "What is this?" And he goes, "That's your cut." He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I dumped the game. It's your cut. That's your cut of the money. I threw the game," which I thought was such a. I mean, and I don't know. Maybe other people did see it coming, but like I thought it was such a good because you do feel conflicted about all these characters. You feel
Mhm.
conflicted about Eddie, but there's this, you know, there's all these scenes of Eddie like getting his game back,
Yeah.
all these scenes of him building his confidence back up. And he even tells Carmine before he plays Vincent, he says, "I'm gonna beat him." And she says, "Well, maybe." And like see that to that
Oh, I guess there was
realization that
some
Eddie has.
foreshadowing there for sure that like, "Oh, maybe you will."
Right. That realization that Eddie has when he finds out that may not have beaten Vincent fair and square and that Vincent had thrown the game is like is I think a fantastic ending for a character. I guess it's not the end either because there's kind of an epilogue to all of it, but to see that character to have that character suddenly just throw everything like wow, like I thought that I was back on top and now I might not be
Well, it's kinda good because then at that point when
happy moments.
so I didn't really see it coming myself, but when I saw him lose, I was like, "Oh, well, maybe this movie is gonna end up being, like, a really, like, touching, like, Fast Eddie finally gets his, like, we see him conquer everything, conquer all odds, he gets his glasses, he can finally see, he's winning pool." I'm like, "Oh, well, maybe this is how it is. Maybe it's just a full-on, redemption story, and that's what we're going to get delivered at the end." But then as soon as Vincent's like, "Here you go," and he did exactly what Fast Eddie was trying to do this whole entire time, was to get the
Right.
odds stacked against him so he would bet on him and win the whole entire tournament. But when Vincent beats Grady Seasons and like absolutely smokes him, the top earner, that skews the odds so much. And then Vincent just goes, "Hey, you know what? Let's make some money here. I'm gonna throw to Eddie." And it's everything that they wanted, but it wasn't satisfying to either of
Right.
them.
It's everything Eddie yeah, exactly. It's everything Eddie spent the film teaching him, uh, but it he didn't foresee it coming
Mhm.
and it totally throws his confidence out askew.
I mean, this movie is
Um,
more about friendship than it is money. It's about the importance of friendship, not money.
color of friendship.
Mhm.
Maybe the real friends are the money that we made along the way.
Hey, that's what I'm hoping with this, baby.
I do like this movie. Think like it like this movie more than I don't. Or at least I would say that I respect this movie. I admire it. I think it's well made. It was enjoyable to watch. I wasn't like even though the characters were frustrating at times, which I think Scorsese does on purpose.
I agree.
This wasn't this wasn't a raging bull thing where I was like pissed with the characters or
Yeah.
anything like that. I was just kind of like I was like, all right, like I enjoyed the film. I just my things my main things I would say is that I don't think the character arcs they do start somewhere and they do end somewhere, but I think a lot of that middle portion is kind of glossed over.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's weird. There's characters like, for instance, Julian is Fast Eddie's like protege before he finds Vincent.
Mhm.
Um, and he gets all pissed off when he finds out Eddie's taking Vincent on the road. And then he shows up later again in Atlantic City. Um, he's never you almost kind of think that he's going to come up as like a bigger plot point, like he's going to be the antagonist when they get
Yeah,
to Atlantic City, and
yeah, it just doesn't happen.
nothing really comes of it. He's just kind of there, just fine. It's just kind of a weird movie that doesn't have any antagonists, and you're also not sure who to root for.
I think it
So you
switches
don't
though at times. I think
know.
so I don't think this movie needed to be as long as it was. That's my personal take. I don't think it needed to be 2 hours, but it's also 2021 now, and 1986 was a different time for cinema. So the longer movies actually, but I think the story and what they were trying to accomplish could have been done a lot sooner, but they kind of like there was a lot of fluff in it with these shots, a lot of fluff with like these montages that I think they could have cut out and still accomplished a really well done movie. But kind of like you say, these characters stressed me out, and I kinda got, like, a little anxiety with these characters and the way that they were interacting in this world and with each other. But I didn't hate the movie, I didn't love the movie. There were certain parts of the movie, if I break it down into, like, different segments, there's parts that I loved more than anything that I've watched, and there's parts that were, like, below. But overall, pretty decent.
No, so we know what Martin Scorsese thinks of Marvel films. Do you
Mhm.
think he how do you think he feels about TikTok?
Scorsese, I would be interested to think if Scorsese even knew what TikTok was. Like, Scorsese, you'd just be like, "Tick TikTok? Tick."
'Cause here's my thought process is he doesn't like MCU films because they're these corporate made
He doesn't like any
3-hour
franchise films, though. Let's keep that in
video
mind.
game right kind of
Not just
things.
Marvel, any franchise
Uh,
film like that. He's like, "This isn't."
so TikTok is technically it's like you have certain time limit to create something. You're kind of under pressure to create something, and it's kind of the ultimate independent filmmaker's tool in a weird way. I know that it's not
So you're
filmmaking.
saying that,
This
like,
is
Scorsese absolutely loves TikTok?
this is like half a bit, but I'm also like,
Like,
what if
this
yeah, like what
85-year-old
if
man is just blown away by TikTok, and he's just like, "Oh, this is phenomenal. This is absolutely incredible. Look at this." He's, like, yelling at his wife. He's like, "Look, they put a whole movie together in a minute. It took me 2 hours to put pool and swimming montages together. They did it in a minute."
this girl just baked a thing of sourdough bread in 45 seconds? This is
"Did
incredible.
you know that you can make brownies in
I
the microwave?" "I did not."
It's exactly what I'm saying. I think Martin Scorsese. If I had to bet money on it, like in this film, I would bet that Martin Scorsese just he fucking loves TikTok.
He does.
I get enough of it.
I can't wait for that tweet. We gotta put out a tweet. It says Martin Scorsese loves TikTok, confirmed. Lomo Media confirmed exclusive.
Confirmed. Wow. Big news. So I have my answer. My answer is pretty clear. I'd be surprised if yours was different than mine. Um, where would you rank this among your Scorsese films?
Oh, where did I rank it? And you said it's gonna be the same as yours? Man, I'm under a little bit of pressure here.
I I have a strong feeling that it's going to be the same places as mine.
All right. Well, it's not my number 1, and it's not my least favorite, but it is my second least favorite.
Jimmy Lowe is also my second least favorite.
Yeah.
That being said, I think we both agree that this is not a bad movie,
No,
and like I
I
said,
recommend to watch it.
I don't know that I would recommend this to everyone, but I would definitely like not gonna waste your time watching it. I don't think you're gonna
No,
get to the end of it and be like, that was a piece of shit, or I wish I wouldn't have spent that time.
but we do have some people that are following along with us and watching these movies, and they're very hardcore film enthusiasts. So I think if you are a fan of film and a fan of cinema, then I strongly recommend this movie because it is well done technically, and everybody that's interested in film or filmmaking should watch this movie. If you're just looking for a movie like a rec from me to fill up like a Friday night or Saturday night or like a weekday film, and you're not really invested in movies, I'm not going to recommend this to you. It's too long. The plot structure comes and goes at times. So no. Like half of the people, yes, half of the people, no.
You're gonna recommend something more like John Favreau's Chef, like you recommended to me the other night.
Oh, I strongly recommend. Is this a new segment in these where we recommend a movie that we've been watching? My movie rec of the week is
Good.
Chef. My movie rec of the week is Chef, and I strongly recommend anybody. That movie blew my mind, man. I loved it from start to finish. The story was great, the characters were great, the acting was great, the shots were great. It was just a well done movie. Strongly recommend. Even put it on my
No,
Twitter. I got a
no pun
Twitter rec from
intended.
me.
It sounds like comfort food. It
It
sounds like a
was.
comfort food film.
I intended to
Uh,
watch this movie, so I watched Chef to go to sleep, and I just put it on. I was like, oh, okay, this will help me go to. It was like 1 a.m. on last Sunday after we filmed stuff. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put this on. I'm gonna fall asleep to it. I got so invested in that movie. I didn't go to bed till 5 a.m. I was thinking about it for so long after it was done.
it's
So
amazing.
yeah, and it messed my sleep schedule up the whole entire week, but it was worth it. It was worth it.
It's amazing. I will also do I do kind of like this because it'll give people a peek into our taste beyond the directors we're watching.
Mhm.
The movie that I would rec this past week that I watched was Prometheus, which is the Ridley Scott film from 2012. That is a very polarizing movie for a lot of
That
people.
got a lot of hate.
Yeah, technically a prequel to the Alien franchise, but also like not Alien film
Yeah,
specifically.
I liked
And
it.
I'm just
I
gonna
watched that.
say I'm gonna say like you're gonna be lost if you don't know some of if you don't have at least some background with the Alien films. But just from a sense of wonder and from a sense of watching a science fiction film that like I read this Roger Ebert review that like struck a chord with me, and he said that it reminded him of all of these like golden era of sci-fi films from the 50s that weren't afraid to ask questions that they didn't always necessarily answer.
Okay.
I think it has this sense of like wonder to it, and this sense of like what's beyond Earth and what's beyond humanity, and um I really enjoyed it. And I know some people hate it. I would recommend giving it a rewatch. It works for some people, it doesn't work for others, but I had a hell of a time watching it.
Hell yeah,
So
man. I like this. This is a new segment. It also keeps you watching the whole way through. Gotcha.
you can't take that watch back. You can't take that view back.
Mhm. It's our view
One
now.
more in the bucket,
One
baby.
more. Whoa,
It's
thanks
our
for the
view now.
view. Our view.
In all seriousness, we do thank you for your view.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for watching At the Movies with Lo and Mo. We love doing this show. I this is like by far just like the most fun that I have recording every week, and we're gonna keep doing it beyond once we get done with these two directors. So,
Yep.
I hope that people continue to join us. Like I said, if you could do us a favor, if you like the video, if you could like it, share it with people that you think would enjoy it. A subscribe always helps. Next
Subscribe
week
and a
we are
share.
going
That's
to
all we
be
ask. Very free, and it helps us out. So, so I brought up some analytics for everybody, and we're gonna do this really quickly here. But if
okay.
you share our video for free, it doesn't cost you anything. It expands our reach from anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people.
That's amazing.
Just one share. That helps us out tremendously more than you even know. More than $1 donation.
So if you could do that, that would just be amazing. We are doing this because not only do we want to be the best filmmakers we can be, but we also just love film and appreciate it. And I'm just so excited to continue to expand our horizons and watch these movies. Next week we are going to be watching David Cronenberg's The Fly. So this is all I'll say is, Dead Zone we talked about was kind of a opportunity to make something that was a little more big budget, a little more along the lines of a studio film that is not maybe so
It's
gross.
kind of fitting with
And The
this.
Fly,
It's kind of fitting with this Scorsese movie as well, because I felt like it was Scorsese's almost big budget film as well. Sorry for
yeah,
interrupting
I
everybody, but
no, I would agree. Fly for all my Cronenberg fans out there is like another big budget studio film that is super gross. So we are back in body horror land. It should be a lot
hell
of
yeah.
fun. It is a funnier movie than people think. Mel Brooks produced it, which a lot of people don't know.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that
Jeff
either.
Goldblum plays the lead. Yeah, Gina. Oh, geez, hold on. Beetlejuice. Gina Davis, and Jeff Goldblum are the leads in it. Just a really, just a
This will be a fun one.
well-rounded, just a great film. It'll be a lot of fun. So, join us next week for that. In the meantime, make sure that you are keeping an eye out for Lowe's gaming streams,
Hmm.
as well as my Monday movie look segments on the website. You can read the blog. Um,
More to come.
got all kinds of stuff coming out.
More to
More to
come.
come,
So grab
always.
your popcorn. Thanks for joining us for another At the Movies, baby.
Bye bye.